Hello students, in last session we have discussed impact of geography on Indian history and features of Indian history in first chapter of second PUC history. So, today we will discuss two more important topics. One is introduction to Karnataka history and another one is sources of Indian history. This is very important topics in this first chapter. So, introduction to Karnataka history, we will start this topic first. Karnataka is one of the very important state in South India, you know that, having rich culture, great environment and wonderful geographical condition, geographical feature. So, it is one of the very important state in South India. And also here in this Karnataka state, Kannada is the official language. Kannada is the chief language of the state. Kannada, we can here there are lakhs of Kannada speaking people are living. So, Kannada is the major language of this state Karnataka. So, this Karnataka surrounded by many states in around. For example, in north Maharashtra and Goa, west Arabian Sea, east Andhra Pradesh and in south Tamil Nadu and Kerala. So, these are the important states which surrounded Karnataka. Karnataka is surrounded by all these important states and in one side surrounded by sea, Arabian Sea in western part. So, this is the very important feature of Karnataka. Then we have to discuss one more thing which is related to Karnataka, that is origin and antiquity. Origin. Origin and antiquity. It means history of Karnataka. It tells antiquity means history of Karnataka. Regarding this thing, there are different types of opinion came from different scholars and different historians. But most important evidences related to this origin or antiquity of Karnataka, which you can find in Mahabharata, Sabha Parva and Bhishma Parva. Sabha Parva and Bhishma Parva. Here in this ancient evidence which mentions Karnataka for the first time. So, evidence of Karnataka, antiquity of Karnataka goes back to the period of Mahabharata, especially in Sabha Parva and Bhishma Parva. We have get information of origin and antiquity of Karnataka. And also there are some more sources which tells us about the antiquity of Karnataka. For example, Silappatikaram, one more important evidence. Silappatikaram. Sangam literature, one of the greatest work of Sangama period. So, Silappatikaram mentioned Karunadar. It mentions Karunadar. For Karnataka, it mentioned Karunadar. Sabha Parva and Bhishma Parva directly mentioned as Karnataka. Here this Silappatikaram mentioned Karunadar, and one more source is called Velvikudi copper inscription. Velvikudi copper inscription. According to this Velvikudi copper inscription, Karnataka mentioned as Karunadagan. Karunadagan. According to Velvikudi inscription, Karunadagan. Karunadagan. Karnataka is also called as Karunadagan according to Velvikudi inscription. This is also one of the very important antiquity of Karnataka, evidence related to antiquity of Karnataka. And also Karnataka's greatest scholars like Shambha Joshi and Dara Bendre also tried to analysis the word Karnataka, Kannada Nadu. They tried to analysis, they tried to define this word Kannada Nadu. So these are all the important evidences of antiquity and origin of Karnataka. Whatever it, we have found several Stone Age sites also in Karnataka's different areas. It may be related to Neolithic age and megalithic age. So we have the evidences of Stone Ages also in Karnataka. We have got some of the important sites related to Neolithic and megalithic period. So we are having 5 to 6,000 authentic history, antiquity in Karnataka. And next part is, that is geography of Karnataka, geographical features of Karnataka. Like in last session what we have studied geographical features of India, here we are going to study about the geographical features of Karnataka. In Karnataka also we have different types of geographical features. For example, there are 4 in numbers. There are 4 types of geographical features in Karnataka. First one is coastal region. First one is coastal region. As far as geographical features is concerned, first geographical feature of Karnataka is coastal region. Coastal region. Second one is Western Ghats. Western Ghats. Third one is northern and southern plains. And the fourth one is Malnad region. So these are the 4 important geographical features of Karnataka. First one is, I will repeat, first one is coastal region, second one is Western Ghats, third one is northern and southern plains, and the fourth one is Malnad region. All these 4 having different types of environment, different types of geographical structure. So in this way, our Karnataka's geographical features classified into 4 parts. First one is coastal region, second one is Western Ghats, third one is northern and southern plains, and fourth one is Malnad region. So this is about the geographical features of Karnataka. This is just an introduction. We are not going deeply. So only introduction of Karnataka we are giving. So next is important dynasties of Karnataka. What are the important dynasties which ruled this state Karnataka? There are so many great dynasties. First we can mention Kadambas, then Gangas, then Chalukyas, Rashtrakutas, Hoysalas, Vijayanagaras, Mysore Odayars, and after that smaller dynasties like Nayakas of Chitradurga, then several Palagards came into exist. They are all given greatest contributions to the culture of the state. So, all these great dynasties given greatest contributions to the culture of Karnataka states. And also, we shouldn't forget the role of Karnataka during national movement. That is also very important thing, because thousands of people sacrificed their life for the sake of this country, especially non-tax campaign, civil disobedience movement. So, in that national movement also, Kannadiga played a very important role. Most of the places of Karnataka also played a very important role in national movement. So, part of Karnataka during national movement is also very notable thing. And language is concerned, as I mentioned, here Kannada speaking people more are there. So, Kannada considered as classical language among 4 important language of India. This is considered as the classical language, having more than 2000 years of history, actual history. So, Kannada language is considered as classical language among 4 important languages of India. So, this is about introduction of Karnataka state. So, here there are lots of different types of culture, people living together and they are celebrating festivals and cultural activities simultaneously together, and different types of caste, community, classes, religions, they are living in one roof under Karnataka state. This is about Karnataka's history and culture. Briefly, I have explained it briefly because this is just an introduction for Karnataka history. So, next we will move on to another aspect of this particular first chapter, that is very important one, sources of India, Indian history, sources of Indian history. Sources. In my opinion, sources are the very, very important aspects of history. If there is no sources, there is no history. So, that much of important role, having important role play by sources in history. So, without sources we cannot imagine history. If there is no sources, there will be no history also. Because of this thing only, there is one famous saying, there is one famous quotation, no sources, no history. Maybe question can be asked on this, 2 more questions can be asked on this. No sources, no history, define it, briefly explain it. How you will explain? Before that, you should know the meaning of sources. Before go through on that thing, before go to deep into that source topic, we should know the meaning of sources first. What's the meaning of sources? It's evidences. Sources means evidences. To study history, to construct history. So, without sources, we can't construct history. We cannot understand history without sources. because of, we can say, no sources, no history. If there is no sources availability, so we cannot construct this history. Take for example, we want to study about one particular king who ruled during 8th century. How you will construct his history? By taking the help of sources only. What are the inscription who inscribed during his period? That is one source for studying the achievements of that 8th century king. And what are the written documents which is related to his period? That will be the important source for studying his achievements. Like this, if we want to construct any king's history or any dynasty's history, we should take help from sources. Because of that reason only, we can say no sources, no history. This is the role of sources in history. So it means we cannot construct history if there is no sources. This is the role of sources in history. So in sources, we have two important types. Before that, we should know in history also there are two parts. In history also, before go through on the classification of sources, we should know the parts of history, types of history. There are mainly two types we have classified. It is for our convenient. One is historical period and prehistorical period, or prehistorical period and after that historical period. In history there are two types. One is prehistoric and historic, prehistoric period and historic period. This is how we have classified history into two types. What is prehistoric period? Written documents not available. If written documents, written records are not available, we can consider that period as prehistorical period. If there is no written document availability, if there is no availability of written records, we can consider that period as prehistorical. Okay? And historical period means if we have written records, that is called historical period when we get written records, that we can say historical period when we get written records, that is historical period. So this is how we have classified history into two parts, that is prehistorical period and the second one is historical period. Next we moved on to sources. As I told you, in sources also there are two types mainly. One is archaeological sources. Archaeological sources. Another one is literary sources. Archaeological sources, literary sources. What is archaeological sources? Archaeological sources will play a very important role while constructing history. Archaeological source means remains of past human life and activities. Remains of past human life and activities is called archaeological sources. Remains of past human life. Question will arise, what are that remains? Remains like artifacts, man-made tools, jewelries, potteries, terracotta figurines, fossils, weapons, paintings, coins, inscriptions. These are all considered as archaeological sources. Remains of past human life and activities, archaeological sources. And another one is literary sources. Literary sources means written records. Written records. Here in archaeological sources, again we have classified into 5 parts. Again we have classified this archaeological sources into 5 parts. One is excavations. Excavations. Second one is monuments. Third one is coins. Fourth one is paintings. Last one is inscription. That is very important one. First one is excavations, second one is monuments, third one is coins, fourth one is paintings, and the last one is, or fifth one is inscription. So, one by one we will explain, we can explain. First, excavation. In archaeological sources, excavation is very important type of sources. It's a scientific digging of earth to unearth sources. It's a scientific digging process to unearth sources. Scientific digging process, excavations. It should be a scientific digging, should be in the way of scientific, that is called excavation. In excavations also we have again 2 parts, 2 types of excavation. We used to do 2 types of excavation while in research. One is horizontal excavation and another one is vertical excavation. One is for deep to identify deep evidences from the earth, and another one is for width area excavation. So, horizontal and vertical type of excavations we have in excavations. So, through the help of excavation we have found several greatest sites in India as well as Karnataka. If there is no method of excavation, we can't find Harappan civilization. There will be no Harappan civilization if there is no method called excavation. This is the importance of excavation in history. So, in Karnataka also we have found several sites belongs to Kadambas, Shatavahanas and Stone Age sites. In Hampi also we did excavations. In several areas we did excavation. Through that excavation we have found several materials related to ancient history. Ganges Valley, Hampi area, and Madurai, Tirunalveli, Chandragiri, we did excavations. With that, we have got so many remains of past human life. That is the importance of excavation. And also to ascertain the age, to identify the date of remains, to ascertain the age, time period of particular things, we used to take the help of C14, carbon 14 method. C14, carbon 14 method. It is a scientific method to identify, to ascertain the particular age related to things, remains. And one more method, potassium method. Potassium method and C14 and potassium method for to identify the age, time period. So, this is related to excavations. Okay. Next will come second one, that is monument, another important types of source in archaeological sources, that is monument. Monuments also help us to construct history, study history. How? By after studying monuments in India, we came to know about the ancient architectural technology of our country and religious condition, economic condition, social condition, everything. After studying the monuments of India as well as Karnataka. So, in that way it will help us to study history, to construct history. What is monument? Meaning of monuments is structure or sites of historical importance is called monuments. Structure or sites of historical importance is called monuments. We have thousands of monuments in our country, greatest monuments in the form of temples, in the form of basadis, in the form of tombs, in the form of churches, forts, historical buildings, sculptures, statues. We have monolithic temple like Kailasanath temple of Ellora, that is a monolithic temple, greatest temple of the world. How great ancient technology we have. Science, as far as science and technology is concerned, our ancestors, they were in zenith stage, they were in top of the world. That is the greatness of our Indian architectural technology, ancient architecture of India. That is the greatness of ancient architecture of India. We have great statues like Gomateshwara statue in Shravanabelagola. It is a monolithic statue built by Chamundaraya. Chief engineer of the time was Aristonemi. See, these are the great things related to monuments. By taking help from these monuments, we can construct our history of ancient technology. By taking help from these monuments, we can construct a history of science in India, ancient science of India. So, this is the greatness of second category of archaeological sources, that is monuments. Next, coins, another important source in archaeological sources. Study of coins is called numismatics. 2 mark or 1 mark question can be asked on this. What is numismatics? Study of coins. Study of coins is called numismatics, especially ancient coins. from the Mauryan period onwards. Before that also we have the technology, but exactly we can say, if you want to say exactly, from Mauryan period onwards we started to minting coins, silver coins, gold coins, copper coins. Almost every dynasties which ruled India minted coins. So with the help of coins we can identify their emblem, date, time period, economic condition, religious condition, scripts, language, everything. So coins will give you clear picture about all these things. What I told, it may be related to social condition, economic condition, royal emblem and dynasty, king's name, titles, language, script, everything. So coins will play a very important role while constructing any history. That is the importance of coins. And fourth one is paintings. It will give a vivid picture of cultural, social and religious aspects of ancient time. Vivid picture of cultural, religious as well as social aspects of ancient period. So through these paintings we can get all this information, social aspects of that time, religious aspects of that time, cultural aspects of that time. Say, take for example, I'll give best example in Ajanta, in Badami, in Karnataka, Badami and Ajanta also, we have greatest ancient paintings which gives us a vivid picture of that time. We have Imadi Pulakeshi's painting in Badami, that is the greatest source. So paintings also played a very important role while constructing history. That will be the fourth type of archaeological source, and the last and very important one is inscription. So inscription is I think it should be in first, but it's a very important sources, archaeological sources, because inscriptions are contemporary. It will give us an authentic and a clear picture about a particular subject. If you got one inscription that belongs to one king, so in that inscription we can get information related to that particular king clearly. That is why I used the word authentically. It will give authentic picture of particular subject. So inscriptions is very important source material in archaeological sources. Nearly 75,000 inscription found in India. Around 75,000, more than 75,000 inscription has been found in India. As far as Karnataka is concerned, more than 25,000. In Tamil Nadu and Karnataka only, the number of inscription crossed 50,000. Just imagine the importance of South India in history. Only in 2 states it will cross 50,000 among 75,000 in entire India. So we are in second position after Tamil Nadu. So Tamil Nadu is in the top position, the number of inscription is concerned, and we are in the second position. We have got more than 25,000 of inscription in various languages: Prakrit, Sanskrit, Kannada, Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam. In all the languages they have inscribed inscription in a different chronological period by using different styles of scripts. So that is the greatness of inscription. On rocks, it's inscribed version of writings. Inscription means inscribed version of writings on rocks, pillars, wood. So that we can say inscription, or copper also, copper plates also, that we can say inscriptions. Study of inscription is called epigraphy. Like study of coins is called numismatics. Here study of inscription is called epigraphy. What is epigraphy? It can be asked 1 or 2 mark question. What is epigraphy? Epigraphy means study of inscriptions. Study of inscription is called epigraphy. Study of coins is called numismatics. So this is related to inscription. We have several great and as well as important inscription in Karnataka. For example, we can mention 3 inscription. One is Allahabad pillar inscription of Harisena. It will give a clear picture about Samudragupta and his achievements. And then Aihole inscription of Ravi Kirti about Pulakeshi, and Halmidi inscription of Kakutsavarma, Kadamba's inscription, Kannada's ancient inscription, Halmidi inscription of Kakutsavarma. So there are so many. Mangalesha's inscription we can mention, Kappe Arabhatta's inscription we can mention. There are many inscription which placed in a high position in the history of Karnataka. This is about archaeological sources. And the next is literary sources. Literary sources, again we have 2 types. One is indigenous. Indigenous. Second, foreign. Indigenous literary sources, foreign literary sources. Indigenous records, foreign records. Indigenous record means records related to India written by Indians, that is indigenous records. Records written by foreigners are called foreign records. So both the type of literary sources help us to construct our country's history, our state's history. In indigenous sources, again we have classified 2 types. One is religious sources and another one is secular sources. Religious sources means Mahabharata, Ramayana, Puranas, Dwadashangas, Jaina literature, Dwadashangas, and Jataka stories, Tripitakas. So Aryabhata's work and ancient scholars' works, these are all considered religious works. Secular literary works means it may be in the form of biography, maybe in the form of drama, and literature related to science, maths, yoga, astronomy. This is called secular type of writings, indigenous records. We can give some examples of these secular type of writings in indigenous records. For example, Ashwaghosha's Buddha Charita, one of the very important secular type of writings of ancient India, and Bilhana's Vikramanka Deva Charita, Kallana's Rajatarangini, Shushruta Samhita by Shushruta, Charaka Samhita by Charaka, Aryabhatiya Surya Siddhanta by Aryabhata, Varaha Mihira's Brihat Samhitas. See, all these great ancient works belongs to indigenous records, especially in the form of secular type of writings. So, in indigenous records we have again two types, secular writings and religious writings. So, next come to another type of literary sources, that is foreign records. As I told you already, records, writings written by foreigners is called foreign records. In foreign records also we can mention some great works which tells us about ancient India, ancient Indian social, religious, cultural, economic conditions. For example, Indica of Megasthenes. It will give us clear picture about Mauryan time, Mauryan administration, Mauryan political system, Maurya's cultural social system, and also Vishakadatta's Mudra Rakshasas. It is also one of the important literary source for studying Mauryan history. It is a drama. And also Chanakya's Arthashastra, Kautilya's Arthashastras, ancient great work, and writings of Pahiyan and Siyuki of Huensang, writings of Huensang, and several great Muslim travelers also visited ancient India. They have written about ancient India society. For example, Suleiman. Suleiman writings also help us to construct ancient history, and writings of Al-Biruni, Ibn Battuta, and later during Vijayanagara period there are many European travelers also came to India as a visitors. For example, Niccolo di Conti, Barbosa, and Domingo Pace, Abdul Razak, many more. So, in this way, by taking help from these indigenous records and foreign records as well as archaeological records, it may be in the form of excavation, monuments, coins, paintings and inscription, we can construct our Indian as well as state's history. This is the importance of sources in history. So, by taking help from all these sources, we have constructed our history.